if you need a cable to bring out the clarity, resolution, details, Effect Audio, Cadmus 2. That's your boy. Guys, let's talk about cables. Now, I know right up and the fact that some people are getting up in arms right now, but it's a very controversial topic, and I don't know why it pushes people's buttons. The way I look at it is if you can hear a difference in cables, then all the power to you, and that's okay by me. Today, I'm talking about the Cadmus. I'm talking about... I did it again. Effect Audio's Cadmus 2. Now, I want to say thank you to Effect Audio and HIfiGo for providing the unit, and because I asked for it. I have a bunch of cables from different manufacturers, and honestly, I just haven't done a cable review because I struggled to think about how I would do one, to be very honest. But I do owe them some recognition. Penon sent me the ASOS. It's a very nice cable. Nice HCK, Gray Dragon, and a DD Hi-Fi BC130A, which is the NIX cable. Let's talk about the Cadmus first of all. It comes in this nice box and packaging, really, really pretty. Signature Series 2, possibilities unlocked. Inside you get the cable. This one is $249. I was a little disappointed in the fact that they didn't include a case, and I really think at this price point you really should. So that's just some feedback for you as well. Now, the nice thing about this, and a little bit more unique about this Effect Audio cable, is the Term-X connectors, where you actually can change out. Now, you do get, when you buy the Cadmus 2 or the Aeros 2, you get a 2-pin 0.78 connector. And if you want to get their Pentacon or MMCX or any of the other terminations, that you need to pay about an extra $15 for those. So again, I would have liked to see MMCX and 2-pin in the box. And a nice cable tie. I think at this price point, that's what I would expect. So it is interchangeable. So you can invest in a $250 cable. Mine's in a 4.4, and use it for different IMs. If you have an MMCX one and swap the ends, that's kind of nice. This was easy. To swap out the terminations. It really was. I mean, just twist it off, and that's all it is, right? There's a pin on one side, and there's the matching connector, male and female. They go together, make something special. Enough about that. This cable is a very nice cable. It has the most amount of sparkly silver SPC I've seen, and Effect Audio does a pretty amazing job on the hardware. It is very well done. I mean, from the splitter, absolutely gorgeous. To the ends, again, everything is color-coded, matched. The little chin slider is actually functional. It doesn't slide around. It stays in place and does its job, really. What else do you want? Some interesting things about when I did this review. As I said, I was struggling to actually think about how to do it. So the first thing I did is I whipped out my professional dialogue meter and measured some cables. And it was kind of an interesting find. I didn't really know what I was going to expect. And I'll pull up some of the results here. The effect audio was top of the game, as you would expect. What was, and a lot of these higher end cables, even the Gray Dragon, which is only $80, the Penon ASOS, regular price $169, and the DD Hi-Fi is also competing at the $249 price point as well. So they measured really well across the board. What didn't measure well, and what I thought was kind of interesting, was the cable that comes with the Zigats, the Arete and the Estrella. Now, which is one thing is, as I had the Estrella here long enough to get the Arete in and do a comparison and then ship them off. But when I did the Arete video post the Estrella video, and I used the stock cable, which I typically don't, I noticed something. I noticed that the Estrella didn't sound nearly as bright. And when I pair this up with one of my DAPs, which happens to be the Onyx XM5, on balanced output, it already has a 6.6 ohm resistance on the balanced output. That cable measured out at 4.4 ohms resistance. Putting the two together is like putting an impedance adapter on the IM. I didn't use that stock cable in the first video because I didn't want to use it in the second video. It's shit. But my question is it shit deliberately, or was it shit, just shit? Because did they tune it with the shit cable with a higher load impedance to sculpt the sound? Maybe, I don't know, but it does change the sound, and that is my point and my takeaway with that higher impedance cable. It really does make a difference. Did I say that cable is shit? Yeah, it's shit. I didn't want to use it. It was terrible, tangly and ugly, and I just didn't like it. So I used better cables, and I got better results. Right? There is absolutely no doubt that I got more information flowing into that IM, and it probably didn't skew my impressions. It made the impressions what they would have been if it wasn't impacted or affected by the cable. Now, people scream cables don't make a difference. If it works, it works. I don't think that's true. And doing this review really kind of hammered home the point. I've always been a bit of a cable believer. I first say your first investment is obviously ear tips, make the biggest sound change difference. Secondly is sources. Third and lastly is cables. And that's really how I go about doing my reviews, to sculpt down to get to the best, to squeeze the best out of the IM and then share my impressions with you. And some people say, well, it doesn't, you need a super high-end IM to hear a difference. And I'm here to dispel a couple of those myths from my observations. And that's the unique thing about observations. You can't disclaim that I didn't observe that. That if that's what I observed, then that's what I observed. You can't dispel that. That's my that's what I experienced. So now, DYNAQUATRO. Okay, this little guy here, I like this IM quite a bit. It's a bit darker up top, and before I go full circle, I typically, and this is kind of funny, is I had paired this just doing, not without, before I did this review, picking some cables out. I picked this cable because it sounded really good, better than stock on the DYNAQUATRO. And that's how I ended up doing my impressions. Now, the stock cable is actually pretty darn good, but I found it was missing something. And I found it with this cable. Now, this is kind of interesting. Okay, so when I put this not very expensive IM on the Cadmus 2, what happened? Well, I got lots of sparkle, really nice sparkle. And it takes a whole lot of time to do a cable review, just like a source review. It's pretty incredible. You got to take the same IM, the same track, same source. And in this case, my source was the DeChelli Labs J3 Pro Sparkos op amps, the SS 2590s, out to my topping A90D. That is my reference neutral, fantastic sounding stack desktop right here. Now, plugging this in, immediate difference from stock cable, the vocals come through with more nuances. You could pick that up. And the interesting part was the mids weren't so recessed. When I was listening to Last Day of Our Acquaintance by Sinead O'Connor, the guitar comes through on the Cadmus 2, where on the stock cable it really gets pushed back and you don't really hear it or notice it. You have to listen for it with the stock cable, and it gets pushed back too much in the mix, where the Cadmus 2 really just brought it to life, right? Then I switched over to the Penon ASOS, $169, modular ends, fixed terminations at the end. You have to buy it in whatever. You have to also specify whether you want ear hooks, because I don't come in stock. Measured quite well as well, not so bad. And I'll be honest here. I honestly, on this IM, I cannot hear a difference between these two high quality cables. That's, I already told you what I heard here, and I heard the same thing on the Penon ASOS cable. I will say one thing about when I critiqued the Cadmus cable, the Effect Audio, this is the case that the Penon cable comes in. Included. $169, $249. I will also tell you, between these two cables, this is the Penon, this is a way thicker 8-core cable. And it is also way more soft and flexible this is not a slouch. It's not a tangly cable. It's a beautiful cable in the Effect Audio. But the Penon does up its game on the fact that it is thicker and softer, more pliable. So who cares about that, right? I do. You got to wear it. I mean, these things are both kind of ropey, so I mean, they got to be comfortable to wear, right? The Penon ASOS has the 8-share copper silver plated and OCC silver plated things. So much hype on HIFI on cables about Penon cables. That's probably why it put me off doing one of these reviews for cables. Because it just, people would go on and say it changes the entire sound. It's miraculous. It can make this cheap one sound like. Anyway, next one up, the Grey Dragon from Nice HCK. This is $80. British high conductivity copper and silver coated, critically annealed copper and conductive CNT coated copper. It's a whole bunch of stuff going on. there. Really nice hardware too. They really do a great job. It is very much like the Effect Audio, only even smaller, and same kind of chin slider, exactly the same as well. So kind of interesting. I've got some other of their cables, but I wanted to do an $80 one, a $169 one, and a $250 one, just to give you some comparison. What did I hear? I think this one was definitely an improvement over the stock cable, which is already pretty good. But it has a touch more clarity to the vocals and a hint more shine up top. It has the smallest hardware. So it was very comfortable, and it just seemed to work really well for this IM. And in fact, when I threw one more cable on, which is the DD Hi-Fi, and I listened to all four of these IMs, my conclusion was the least expensive upgraded cable was the best pairing for this particular IM. And that's another conversation to have. It's sometimes you're going to get a better pairing with a cable. Just go on for one thing here. Bear with me. Indulge me for a second. Generalization. And this is how I typically pick maybe a cable when it comes to an IM that I want to sculpt it or change its sound signature, because that's kind of what you're doing, right? A pure copper cable, for me, generalization, doesn't boost up any of the upper mids or treble. And it adds nice bass. It bass focused. Sometimes tighter, sometimes more robust in the low end. That's what a pure copper cable does for me, but it doesn't exaggerate the upper mids or treble. Now, SPC or silver-plated cables, SPC, I'll just talk SPC for a second. Silver-plated cables, for me, tend to, I find, if you get a good one, does enhance the top end. Add some more detail and sparkle in the upper mids and treble. Generally, that's what I find. Pure silver, I'm not a huge fan of pure silver cables. To me, they seem to try too hard for the treble. And as I'm treble sensitive, unless I have a very, very dark IM or something I needed to bring out, then I would use that. I have one from... what is that? IVIPQ with a pure silver and palladium cable. That is my treble fixer. Any really dark IM, I put that cable on. I know if there's any treble or missing, it will find it to the best of its ability. That is that cable. That's what I use that cable for. And it's kind of interesting that I know my cables. I know how they have it, but I've never written it down or actually did a review kind of like this. So let's go on. So that was with the DYNAQUATRO. Then next up is this new one that I'm testing from Katori Audio called the ZEPHYR. Phenomenal. Titanium dynamic driver and one single Knowles BA. Your mind will be blown on what you can do for $150. Scared, tragically hip. Stock 2-core SPC cable is absolutely stunning. And this, again, Cadmus is up. What did you do for me? The guitar over the stock cable. Honestly, this is a $150 IM. What a surreal difference. Wow. How does it change the sound profile that much over the stock cable? In a comparison, vocals are, when you listen to the stock cable, sound a bit recessed. When you switch over to this, you go, oh, right? It's like it just cleaned up a veil or something. The knocks on the side of the guitar, now this is a lower frequency, right? That's a bass thing. You could actually pick it out, so it's more resolving with the Cadmus cable than with the stock little cable. And I just think there's just more information because of the amount of metal that's in this thing than the stock cable, right? It's kind of thin. more details, more resolution, but the big takeaway was that it was smoother. It just made the whole entire presentation not just more detailed, but actually smoother. That's the only way I can really describe that. The Pennant ASOS, it actually now on this IM changes, whereas the previous IM, the two cables were the same. This one pushes mids forwards and doesn't have that same resolution and details that the Cadmus did. So it didn't have the special sauce. The Dragon, how did that Dragon do? Well, that Dragon did really well. It is a sonic upgrade again over the stock cable, but that's really it. It wasn't, there was no wow factor there. It was not nearly as smooth. It didn't do that special sauce that the Cadmus did with the Dragon cable. It was kind of on par, really, with the Pennant for, again, twice its price. The DD Hi-Fi Nix cable, that's an interesting cable. That's a cable that's shielded. It seems to have a really kind of a darker background. And that was one of the things I liked about the DD Hi-Fi cable on some IMs. It just seemed to have more... I guess more blacker background, so when there was quiet passages there was nothing, and then when the music came in it just seemed to have a full effect. So overall though, what was the winner? The Cadmus was the winner on that IM. I would pay, here's that controversial part. If you could afford $250 and put it on a $150 IM, you're going to get a very, very nice $400 IM, right? But it'd be worth it. Again, pricing is not really value for me. It made a huge difference. The Cadmus on that IM made it sound the most natural. It was a fantastic pairing. So the Cantor, the Afoul, 14 BAs per side. There's a whole lot of it. It's got a lot of top end. Do I want to pair an SPC cable to an IM that already has enough top end being treble sensitive? Why not? The stock cable is very, very good. SPC cable, braided, beautiful blue, worked good. Let's talk Tina Gao. Let's talk Vivaldi, double cello concerto movement number 1. Cadmus. It brings out the absolute best amount of detail in the strings. Not only did it bring out the most amount of detail, it brought out a more natural sounding violins just sounded better on that cable over the stock cable for sure. The AOSOS, the Pennant cable, it has more weight. I was getting the impression that this cable actually kind of thickens up the mids a bit. It does have more note weight and body to the mids, not as detailed top end as the Effect Audio cable. The $80 Dragon had the most effect, but on the very top registers. Not as detailed again on the Cadmus, not as musical as the Pennant cable. It just kind of actually boosted, and this is the thing about certain cables, they might boost something in the wrong area, and whatever it was with this cable with the Cantor was not so good, but the Cadmus, number 1, easy. Number 2 was the DD Hi-Fi, very nice pairing as well, on par with a little bit more, again, a little bit more weight and body to the DD Hi-Fi cable, but for detail retrieval and resolution, Cadmus, winner, chicken dinner. I'm going to talk one more track here. When I was playing with this, I do like the DD Hi-Fi 90 degree end you can get with it. The hardware, everything, very nice, great chin slider. This is a nice cable for $250 as well. And some IMs and some tracks, the DD Hi-Fi was on par. Again, trading blows with the Effect Audio cable. What it doesn't have is it doesn't have the interchangeable ends. So pricing for value-wise, probably not as good. The difference was the darker background that you could pick up sometimes with that cable, with that shielded, interesting designed cable over the other ones. Another one from DYNAQUATRO, the Circle of Life. And the cello had more realistic weight and body with the DD Hi-Fi, as did the flute. But the Cadmus was more resolving again on the ability to pick up the subtleties of the strings. And at that point, I really got my head wrapped around what the Effect Audio Cadmus 2 cable was about, what its strengths were. The DD Hi-Fi, though, does win it for having the best case and the ability to do right angle plugs if that's your thing. The bling factor is also very, very nice. With the DD Hi-Fi one, though, you need to step up. They do make a version like that, but you got to step up to $500. And that's where then you get interchangeable modular plugs on the plug side, and then the interchangeable terminations on the other side at $500. So Cadmus comes in at a pretty good value for having that feature at $249. Let's go into wrap this bad boy up, do some kind of conclusion here. Cadmus at $249 wins for the best hardware and looks and interchangeable terminations. It was the winner. The DD Hi-Fi was number 2, just for its sound quality and its dark background and case. That was at $249, so it was number 2. At $169, the Penon ASOS wins on thickness and softness, case, right? Most flexible, modular end. That's what it wins for. Not sound, particularly. $80 nice ACK Dragon came in my opinion, a better buy, a better value than the Penon. It did more things differently, specially to IMs that I wanted to boost the high end. So it's a good price at $80 too. But really, I think if you were looking for a cable to bring out what a true silver-plated cable, a true silver with that element in that, the Cadmus is a good choice. It really did, for cable believers, a good job. It is worthy of the name and its price. They are $5,000 cables, people. They really are. So at $249, this is the cheap stuff, to be quite honest. If you need a cable to bring out the clarity, resolution, details, Effect Audio, Cadmus 2. That's your boy. This was interesting. Thank you for letting me share. I'm going to do some more comparisons and along the lines. And now I have a better understanding, too, of how much these things are really affecting my listening. And I'm going to pay more attention to the fact of stock cable, and I might start measuring the stock cables and see if that could possibly affect the sound impressions as well. I haven't really gone into that. I typically just pick cables of the matching bling factor, to be quite honest. And I know they did something, and I am a cable believer, but I wasn't up until this review and spending. My ear holes hurt, actually, from swapping these things in and out so many times. that I'm more of a cable believer now than I was before I did this review. So hope you found it interesting and informative. And let me get back to doing some more gear.